Oh shit, it's time for the Saints Row 4 video review. I'm Calvin Martinez, your associate editor, and I'm, as always, Saints Row 4 sees the boss becoming the President of the United States. His cabinet includes some of the best the country has to offer, including Ben Motherfucking King, Pierce Washington, Shondi, and of course Kinsey as the press secretary. The beginning of the game features the huge complication of the Zin invading the Earth. Led by Zinyak, they captured the best and brightest the Earth has to offer, including the boss and the Saints. Zinyak puts each of the Saints in their own personal hell. The boss's hell is a 1950s Leave It to Beaver situation, where he has a quick time event where he eats pancakes and presses buttons to eat pancakes, which is what you would do in the 1950s, eat pancakes in a quick time event. It's like God of War about pancakes. Eventually, the boss has to exit the 1950s Leave It to Beaver prison. When he does that, he enters Bizarro Stillport, which is like Stillport except with alien shit around and the laws of reality and physics don't apply. Later, the boss has to buy a gun to start disrupting the simulation. The only way he can get out of the simulation is by disrupting it. In Saints Row 4, there's a little bit more customization to the guns than before. You can change the look of the gun, and changing the look of the gun changes the properties. So the dubstep gun can play different songs if you change the shell of the gun. Once you get your gun, you can start fucking shit up. This is one of the beginning missions where you get oriented in Bizarro Stillport and can start fucking with the simulation. And the only way to get out of the simulation is by really messing with it beyond recognition. So some of the first missions are just customization. You can change your look. At first I wanted to look like a baller-ass William Howard Taft, and now I want to look like J. Edgar Hoover, so I got some sweet pointy boot. Throughout the game, there's these data clusters, which is what the character just picked up. These data clusters give you access to superpowers. At first, you start with super speed and super jump. Throughout the game, you'll get more powers unlocked through story missions and side missions. These data clusters are scattered throughout Bizarro Stillport, and collecting them allows you to upgrade your powers to be completely badass. Much like previous Saints Row games, Saints Row 4 features a bunch of activity. Performing the various activities around the map allows you to take over more of Bizarro Stillport. Activities like this, which is racing, where you use your newly acquired super speed to race through this track, and by doing this you disrupt the simulation. The more activities you complete, the more the simulation gets disrupted, and it furthers the boss's goal of getting revenge against. This is the fraud activity, where you run into cars and ragdoll to rack up cash. The higher your cash value at the end, the better your medal will be. What makes this mission a lot of fun is the inclusion of the superpowers, which allows you to fuck with the physics really badly, which can lead to some really high scores and keep you in the air for a huge amount of time.
Nice view!
The Mayhem activity makes a return as well, where you go around using vehicles to blow up shit. In Saints Row 4, you can use alien tanks, UFOs, and mech suits to blow up Bizarro Stillport. Then there's the activity, oh wait, sometimes this happens and it will freak you the fuck out, man. Look at that shit. It's fucking weird. Another activity is carjacking, where you go around hijacking cars and then returning them to a specific location to get the data to fuck with the simulation. In this one from Keith David, you hijack a armored car and return it somewhere, and sometimes you park it right at the beginning, and sometimes you have to really try at it. To mix up combat a little bit, Volition included these wardens at various points in the game that are aliens that can use superpowers much like the boss can. Fighting them requires a little bit more strategy. As you move on in the game, they get a little bit tougher, they have more superpowers. But the only way to get newer superpowers is by defeating specific wardens and integrating the boss's code with theirs. By doing that, you get access to some cooler new powers. However, to get those powers, you have to go inside the warden, and that's kind of gross. By defeating this warden, you get the freeze blast power, which is very useful in combat because it allows you to freeze enemies and then shoot them with bullets to shatter them, or run into them with super speed to shatter them.
Serving like a waiter, rap game alligator, rap game elevator.
Rap game now and later, rap game aces later. Eventually the boss has to stop pussyfooting around in the simulation and break out. When he breaks out, he is naked and defenseless on Zinyak's ship. While he's waiting for Kinsey to come rescue him, he has to defend his position against a ton of Zin, cracking wise and firing bullets. Eventually your rescue arrives and destroys the Zin in glorious fashion. Glorious fashion with bullets from a ship. And then Keith David's there because Zin can't capture Keith David. Can't keep Keith David down. Keith David is a national treasure. And Keith David rescues you. Because what else is Keith David going to do? Let you fall? Here's the president. His partner in crime. And then you escape. And you have to go through a bunch of ducks in a ship, which is standard for space escape. I think. Maybe. Who knows? It happens here. And you just, you talk for a while, you destroy ships, you listen to some sweet tunes, and, avoid crashing. That's the most important part. Avoid crashing. And barrel rolls. Barrel rolls are very important. The gameplay in Saints Row 4 is greatly improved thanks to the inclusion of the superpowers. Whereas in previous Saints Row games, the gameplay was a bit repetitive with the gunplay, the inclusion of the superpowers makes things a little bit more dynamic and creative. Now you can jump up really high in the air after scaling a building and then drop down, causing a nuclear explosion to take out as many enemies as you like within the radius. So now gameplay is more creative, you have more options to cause destruction and chaos. Instead of just shooting people with a SMG, now you can shoot people with a dubstep gun and then use your telekinesis to bounce them against the wall. It's a pretty fun experience throughout. Another one of the major strengths of Saints Row 4 is its music. There's a lot of diversity to the radio stations with a lot of good tunes on them. You can mix and match if you don't want to listen to a particular station after a while. The best station in the game is the Mad Decent radio station hosted by Riff Raff, aka Jody High Roller. It's just a really ridiculous station with his DJing, and it contains a lot of his songs which are equally ridiculous. A very fitting station and playlist in Saints Row 4. The only major weakness in Saints Row 4 is the graphics. It's not bad looking by any means, but there's some certain texture issues and graphical glitches after a while that pop up in the console version. It still looks pretty, it's just there's some issues with the size of the game and how it runs after a while. The best visual representation is not on the consoles that are pushed to the limits as is. But still, it's not going to be unplayable. Saints Row 4 is a tremendous game. It features amazing gameplay with crazy superpowers that give the open world a sense of carnage that can only be dreamed about before. The writing is smart, funny, and clever. The story missions are unique and fun to play, and Volition this time around didn't seem chained by any sense of limitation, either by reality or sense, because Keith David is your vice president, and that shit is fucking crazy.
Now I'll never finish. I won't forgive them for that. You're the president. I'm the vice president. You're the boss of the Saints. I'm just one of your crew. You've taken over cities and toppled rival gangs. I've conquered Hollywood and have a name to uphold. It just wouldn't work between us, you see? I think that would just be weird. I'm surprised how well folks are holding up. Me? I'm freaking the fuck out inside. Don't tell anyone, though.